Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 6, Texts 13 to 15. So there are 3 verses today, but we will read the Sanskrit only of the first verse. Tatra Tatra Pashanvana Swa Purvesha Mahatmana Pragiyamanam Cha Yasha Krishna Mahatmya Sochakam Tatra Tattva Pashanvana Swapurvesha Mahatmanam Pragiyamanam Chayasha Krishna Mahatmya Sochakam Tatra Tattva Pashanvana Sapurvesha Mahatmanam Pragiyamanam Chayasha Krishna Mahatmya Sochakam Tatra Tattva Pashanvana Swapurvesha Mahatmanam Pragiyamanam Chayasha Krishna Mahatmya Sochakam Atmanam cha paritvanam asvathama satejasa sneham cha rishiparthanam tesham bhaktim cha keshave Thebhyam parama santosta priti ujram bhita lochana mahadanani vashamsi dhado harati mahamanaha. So this verse is being spoken by Sutta Goswami. Actually, 3 verses are being discussed in today's class. In this chapter, we are seeing how Parikshit Maharaj received the age of Kali. Specifically in these verses, it is being explained that King Parikshit, who is the king of this whole planet, he should travel all over the planet. At that time, even though King Parikshit was the king of the whole planet, there were many small kings all over the globe also. And King Parikshit would travel to all these places to make sure that the principles of religion were being followed everywhere. As we have explained many times, the way the kings were very concerned not only about their own welfare, but the welfare of the whole planet. So wherever King Parikshit would travel, he would be received by all the citizens. And when he would be received, people would talk about his grandfather and the Pandavas and how they were devoted to Krishna. Parikshit's grandfather and the Pandavas were being remembered everywhere because they were great devotees of Krishna. Chanakya Pandit has analyzed, and he states that if a rich man, he is known just in his own village, but a devotee of the Lord is known all over the planet. So the Pandavas were great devotees of Krishna, and hence their fame was spread to every corner of the globe. And also because society was more civilized at that time, King Parikshit had the opportunity to hear about the glorious pastimes of Lord Shri Krishna. In this verse, it is explained the glorious acts of Krishna. So Krishna, when he appears, he performs glorious acts, not ordinary acts. That is why we differentiate Krishna from all these other so-called bogus incarnations, because Krishna does not appear or perform ordinary activities, but always glorious activities. And Parikshit Maharaj, he would also hear how he was saved when he was in the womb of his mother Uttara from the Brahmastra that was released by Aswathama. When Parikshit's mother was pregnant, when Parikshit was in the womb of his mother, Aswathama released the Brahmastra, hoping that Parikshit in the womb would be killed. So when Mother Uttara saw the Brahmastra coming towards the womb, she prayed to Krishna, please protect the child in my embryo. She said that I may die, but protect the child. And then Krishna, who is in the heart as Paramatma, at once manifested himself in the womb and protected Parikshit from the heat of the Brahmastra's weapon. When Parikshit was in the womb of his mother, he firstly saw the form of the Lord for 1 second. But then the Lord withdrew. And all his life Parikshit was looking for that form of the Lord that he had seen in his mother's womb. And that's why this king was called Parikshit. Parikshit means examiner. So all his life, whoever Parikshit saw, he was examining, does this man look like what I saw in my mother's womb? So as the verses are explaining, the king would be very pleased when he would be received in this manner, not because the king was being flattered, but because the citizens were discussing topics about great devotees, the Pandavas, Arjuna and Krishna. So the devotee is pleased when the Lord and the devotees are glorified. Sometimes some people say, I will glorify God, but I won't respect his devotees. But this is wrong. The Lord can never tolerate blasphemy of his devotees. Just like in the play you saw last night, when Nityananda was attacked by Jagai and Madai, Lord Chaitanya was furious, very angry. Similarly, when the Rasa Muni was trying to harm the beloved devotee of the Lord, King Amrish, the Lord was also very, very displeased. He was so displeased that even he said that I can't forgive you, only my devotee can forgive you. So, as aspiring devotees, we should also be dedicated to only hearing about the transcendental glories of the Lord and his beloved devotees. In the purport, Prabhupada is making many important points which we shall now discuss. For example, Prabhupada says that just like King Parikshit was welcomed by the citizens wherever he went, similarly even these days the leaders of society are welcomed by people. So what is the difference between the welcome given to King Parikshit and the welcome given to leaders like Yeltsin or Gorbachev and others? So Prabhupada explained the difference is that King Parikshit was an unalloyed devotee of the Lord, so he was fit to get welcome. Whereas the welcome that we give these days to politicians and so on, we just flatter them to make them feel good. But even when we are flattering them, we know that they don't deserve it, but it's become a custom to flatter them. Devotees, however, don't believe in false flattery. Therefore, we stay away from this category of people. Now, Prabhupada says in the purport that the Lord puts the devotee in danger, but actually the devotee is not in danger. The Lord puts the devotee in danger just to make the devotee glorious and himself more glorious. Actually, the devotees of the Lord are totally fearless. But the Lord creates a situation by which the devotee seemingly appears to be in difficulty, but by this process the devotee deepens his meditation on the Lord, and the Lord also becomes more glorious. Just like Prabhupada is explaining in the purport, the Lord Krishna would not have been so glorified had the Pandavas not been entangled in the battle of Kurukshetra. Padam padam yatri padam natesham. Bhagavatam says, danger at every step. So one can never be sure when the end will come. But in spite of danger at every step, the devotee is still fearless. But one can become fearless not by developing some powerful muscles or taking a course in karate. One can become fearless by understanding the art of remembering Krishna. In modern day society, people try to become fearless by building nuclear weapons, having big army, taking courses in karate and so on. Like in America, it's such a craze. Everybody wants to every young man wants a course in karate. But a devotee becomes fearless by learning the art of depending on Krishna. And as we learn the art of remembering Krishna, working for Krishna, then Krishna is anxious to also protect us. Just like Shukadeva Goswami appeared on the scene to protect Parikshit Maharaj, who was cursed by the Brahmin boy Shringi. When Arjuna's life was in danger on the battle of Kurukshetra because of Bhismadev's anger, the Lord personally appeared, broke his promise, and protected Arjuna. So a devotee knows that in every situation the Lord will protect me. Rakhe Krishna mare Krishna rakhe ke. There's a Bengali saying which says, who Krishna wants to protect, no one can annihilate. And who Krishna wants to annihilate, no one can protect. Queen Kunti has prayed, Vipada Santu Taha Sashva Tata 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 Jagat Guru Bhavato Darshanam Yat said Apnar Bhava Darshanam. My dear Lord, please may the calamities increase, because the more the calamities increase, the more I meditate at your lotus feet, and the more I meditate at your lotus feet, the faster will I gain freedom from birth and death. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, you have a very wonderful story of Jat Bharat, how Jat Bharat was protected by the Lord. Actually, in the Bhagavatam, you have innumerable stories that show how the devotees of the Lord were protected, but the story of Jat Bharat is just one of them. Jat Bharat, in one of his previous births, was King Bharat, the emperor of the whole planet. Even though he was able to renounce his beautiful wife, kingdom, children, unfortunately he had developed an attraction for a deer in the forest. He became so attached to the deer that he would not even sleep or eat without the deer being in his presence. And as a result, he had to take his next birth as a deer. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam. Wherever your mind is at the moment of death, that is where the living entity is transported. However, because he had also executed devotional service in the past, he did not have to take his birth, he did not have to stay for very long as a deer, and he soon took his birth in the family of a Brahmana. And in that birth he was known as Jat Bharat. And in that birth he had vowed never to get entangled again. So to cut a long story short, on one occasion Jat Bharat was guarding a paddy field. And while he was guarding the paddy field, he got kidnapped by some dacoits. I'm sure you have kidnappings in your country also. They have kidnappings everywhere. So Jat Bharat got kidnapped by the dacoits who wanted to offer him to goddess Kali. But so the dacoits were getting ready to offer Jat Bharat to goddess Kali, because they thought by this offering they will be able to please goddess Kali and the dacoit chief may have a son. But Jat Bharat, even though they were getting ready to kill him, he was not at all fearful. He did not protest, because he was fully absorbed in meditating on the Lord. The goddess Kali came up from the deity. She annihilated the dacoits and Jat Bharat was saved. So the devotee of the Lord, by his meditation on the Lord, obtains complete protection of the Lord. The Vasa Muni had produced a demon from his hair, from his sika, with which he was hoping to burn Amrish Maharaj. But Amrish Maharaj was totally unmoved. So the devotee feels the presence of the Lord by chanting his names and by meditating upon him. Very often people say, how can I feel the presence of the Lord? So Prahlad Maharaj has explained, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam. These are the activities by which you can realize the presence of the Lord. When we talk about feeling the presence of the Lord, there has to be a practical way how we feel the presence of the Lord. So Prahlad Maharaj has given us a complete package. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Pada, Sevanam, Archanam, Vanyam, Dasam, Sakhyam, Atmanavedam. These are 9 different processes through which one can execute service to the Lord. So Sharanam Kirtanam we are all familiar with, means to chant and hear. If you chant and hear attentively, then there's a very good chance you'll also be able to remember the Lord. But if you don't chant and hear properly, then you can't remember the Lord. In order to feel the presence of the Lord, you must meditate on the Lord. One should always feel the presence of the Lord. Just like here, we have the very wonderful Sri Sri Gaurnitai deities. And I'm sure all of you feel very inspired about the presence of the Lord when you greet the Lord every morning with the Govinda tape and when you're participating in Kirtan. But we should so mold our lives that we feel the presence of the Lord all the time. Even when you're on the streets, even when you're out in book distribution, even when you're out cooking in the kitchen, even when you're doing a service, you should feel the presence of the Lord. That is what this Krishna conscious movement is supposed to train us, to always absorb the mind in thinking of Krishna. So Vishnu Smarana means to meditate on the Lord. Meditate on the Lord's form, pastimes, instructions. Arjuna was meditating on the instructions of Krishna from the Bhagavad Gita after the Lord had departed from the planet, and he became very joyful. Just like when you go out to preach, When you go on book distribution or doing any service, if your mind is absorbed in the instructions of Guru, Shastra, Sadhu, and you're absorbed in those instructions, then that activity, even if it is externally, it may appear difficult, will become very relishable and tasty. And if you're not absorbed in thinking of Krishna, automatically your mind will gravitate towards sinful activities. So just like Parikshit Maharaj was constantly feeling the presence of the Lord, we also have to train ourselves to always feel the presence of the Lord. To feel the presence of the Lord, two things are necessary. One is called medicine, the other is called diet. Medicine, of course, refers to what we have been discussing, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. Just like when you're sick, if you want to recover from a disease, you need both the medicine and the diet. So we have to recognize that we are sick. Therefore, we need medicine. But you also need the diet. And Prabhupada explained diet means practical execution of service. So we should practically execute devotional service in the day to reflect our understanding of the philosophy. So if you're taking both the medicine and the diet every day, then it will be very easy to feel the presence of the Lord. The service that one has to execute, if one is always remembering how important it is to do this service for the pleasure of the Lord and the Guru and the Shah and the Sadhu, so we have to so train our mind that we feel the presence of the Lord all the time. Krishna says, Satatam Kirtayantamam, always engage in chanting my glories. So when Krishna says, Sarvadhama Paritaja Mam Ekam Shanam Raja, he wants us to completely surrender to him, not just partially. Krishna says, I will protect you, but he'll only protect us if we surrender to him fully. And full surrender to Krishna is realized when we are taking both the medicine and the diet. And even if what may appear to be a difficult task becomes easy by meditating and surrendering to Krishna's instructions. In the Bhagavatam it is said, the vast ocean becomes equal to water left behind in the hoofprint of a calf. To jump over a vast ocean is almost impossible. But to jump over water in the hoofprint of a calf is very easy. So the vast material ocean becomes equal to the hoofprint of a calf if you surrender to Mukunda, the giver of liberation. So this Krishna conscious movement is training everyone how to surrender to Krishna. We only have one business, that is to get everyone to surrender to Krishna. So Sutta Goswami, to summarize the verse, Sutta Goswami is describing how King Parikshit used to hear the glories of his grandfather and the Pandavas, and the citizens were all glorifying these great kings because these leaders, they did not cheat the citizens. They were always concerned about the welfare of the citizens. A devotee of the Lord is not interested in cheating anyone. So, like Parikshit Maharaj took great pleasure in hearing about the glorification of Krishna and the Pandavas, we should also take great pleasure in hearing about the devotees of the Lord and the Supreme Lord. And if we perfect the art of meditating on the Lord, then even what is difficult will become easy. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So I'll take on questions for a few minutes. I just wanted to announce one thing. Bipin Purandar Prabhu, you will announce the schedule for today evening to the devotees. Should I tell them? Okay. So I spoke to our temple president, our honorable president, and I suggested that I'll give the Bhagavad Gita class today after the Aarti. And at 6 o'clock, I'll give a class on Krishna's Vrindavan pastimes. Okay, questions for 10 minutes.
How the Christian souls can be engaged in Sakhyam and Dasyam types of service, but now in this present body, is it possible for us?
Of course, Sakya means to serve the Lord as a Sakya man, as a friend, and Dasya means to serve the Lord as a servant. I think the best is we consider ourselves only as servants of Krishna rather than friends of Krishna at the moment. We are not as elevated as Arjuna was. In Kali Yuga, it's best to just consider oneself to be Dasyam. Yes?
There is some misunderstanding of terms. For example, what the philosophy means and what is its part in devotional service.
Philosophy?
Yes.
Philosophy means knowledge spoken by Krishna and explained by Prabhupada in his purports and published by Bhaktivedanta Book Trust in its books. Is that okay, Sannyas? That is philosophy. And in the purports, Prabhupada has written not only his understanding of what Krishna is saying, but he's also quoted the great acharyas about their realization of what Krishna is speaking. Just like when you go to university, you study the textbook, but the textbook is explained by the professor. Why can't you become a doctor just by reading the medical books at home? Because you need somebody to explain what the textbook means. Was that your question, Prabhu? You want to know what is philosophy now?
Yes, from the Vedic point of view.
So I explained philosophy from the Vedic point of view means God's spoken language and explanation by great sages. In the mundane world, people are studying philosophy as mental speculators. Therefore, when you tell somebody you're a student of philosophy, they think, oh, you must be a big intellectual. But it just means you're a big speculator. Okay. Yes. No.
In which cases in my service to Krishna I should be silent, and in which cases I should say something?
You should be silent. What is your service?
I'm brahmachari, and my goal in life is to make other people also brahmachari, and that's why I should know in which cases I should be silent.
Okay, I understand. Actually, if you want, you can talk all the time except when you go to sleep in the night. But you should only talk about Krishna. And that is called silence. Silence doesn't mean you artificially seal your lips. Silence means you only talk about Krishna.
When the soul falling down from the spiritual sky, first she kills people attaining the high position, and in which way he degraded to the lowest position of the germ, because it is said that animals do not create in some karma.
Well, when the soul falls down, depending upon what his desires were, he falls down by committing sinful activity. After getting a human life, again when they commit sinful activities, they begin to fall down.
In which way we can satisfy Radharani?
By becoming a good devotee like her. Radharani is always absorbed in serving Krishna, so you should also be always absorbed in serving Krishna. So I just want to say a few words about book distribution, and I'll talk more about that tomorrow. I understand that now, as the Russian and the other republics have gone towards what they call market economy, the prices of everything has gone up 5-10 times. And I understand the cost of the Gita now at distribution is 200 rubles, sannyas. Is that in all the republics or only Russian Republic? So I understand that book distribution has gone down tremendously. Those devotees who were doing 100 books a day are now doing how many? Skolka? Pitchfit? 5-10 books a day. So some devotees may be getting discouraged. Boy, this is very difficult service. Now nobody wants to buy a book because the price is so high. Actually, if we just remain determined, Krishna will once again make it possible for us to distribute more and more books. Ultimately, nothing happens without Krishna's permission. So now we just have to learn to deepen our faith in Krishna even more. From a philosophical angle, a devotee doesn't like to blame anybody for his failure. So now Krishna wants us all to surrender even more. No doubt all of you are surrendering and the book distributors are also surrendered. But now Krishna wants us to surrender more. What can you do? You just have to accept it. We should not think that book distribution will never come to the previous levels. Actually, it's very nice that Moscow Temple, I understand, distributed 100,000 big books in December. All the republics, how much? 400,000? They did 300, Moscow 100, so 400 total. And the other republics did 300,000 big books. This actually, devotees all over the world were watching how many books Russia will, how many books these republics will do. I have to say the Moscow Temple defeated the Bombay Temple. The Bombay Temple did 70,000 big books. But the Bombay Temple, after doing marathon for 1 month, they took a break for 2 weeks to study. And now from January 15th to January 30th, they're on phase 2 of the marathon in which they're going to do the remaining 30,000 books. So I feel confident that by the time next December comes for Prabhupada Marathon, Moscow and the other republics will again be able to do like last year. We just have to have faith in Prabhupada's instructions on the importance of book distribution. And if we go on trying our best, slowly, it will increase. Just like I understand, right after the price increase, on some days, some devotees only did 1 or 2 books. And slowly, it went up to 5 books, 7 books, and now we have reached 10 books. They say slow and steady wins the race. So I think if we keep on meditating and we continue with our efforts, slowly we'll come back to 50, 100 books a day. Of course, we may have to print more medium and small books also, isn't it? So please be enthusiastic. Don't get discouraged by the high prices. And Krishna will reciprocate. And if you're enthusiastic, everything is possible. Nobody should think now market economy prices so high, people are not going to buy our books in future. In the mature world, there will always be disturbances. But devotee is not disturbed by these disturbances. So we should continue to have full faith in Prabhupada's emphasis on book distribution as a medium to save humanity. One very good thing is in Moscow now you have 26 legal spots. No, I remember last year we only had 7, 8 legal spots. So maybe due to the opening of market economy, very soon we may have 50 legal spots. So there's nothing to worry. Krishna will always keep rewarding his devotees. Krishna is just testing how strong and determined we are. So I'll talk more about book distribution tomorrow. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
There's a last question. There's a question, what is the meaning of intelligent man? Intelligent man is one who surrenders to Krishna, who follows Guru's instructions, who recognizes his mind as fool number 1. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
All of you are intelligent because you are anxious to hear about Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.